the agricultural sector in Canada, with its developed country status, accounts for 1 in 8 jobs, which to my mind begins to make the point that industrial and developed country status is not at variance with having a dynamic agricultural system. I want to start making that point. I want to make the point that the agricultural system in Canada and the way it's considered is also different to the way that the agricultural system is considered in CARICOM, where the statistics incorporates food service as a dynamic component of the data on agriculture, while in CARICOM we exclude the data and we include it in services without understanding that the dynamic changes benefit, emerge from, and in many instances integrate the various components of our system. Canada's productivity growth, not just negotiating for negotiating's sake, but Canada's productivity growth in agriculture has been at about 1% over the last 10 years, 1.2 actually. The US's productivity growth has been about 2%. And many times we are not analytical enough, so we often spew the rhetoric that they're subsidizing agriculture. The Canadian government does in fact support quite heavily the agriculture. But that support is shifting from distorting to non-distorting trade instruments. The Canada Food Safety Institute is something that they support heavily. Beyond the tariffs and so on, the institute carries out Canada's national policy on food safety. The data is showing that while there are some trade distorting policies, that the rate of total factor productivity growth in these countries is strong. So you have a country where the agricultural system is displaying dynamism because you had the right domestic strategy targeting the right consumer wants and demands in international markets and evolving with it. And so in cases where you had agreements take place, the agreements were aimed at creating space, and the Canadian agri-food system was targeted to the agreements that were negotiated in specific areas. So it was not just a scattershot approach. Canada has a vision that is contained in what they call the agricultural policy framework. And that policy framework has elements, and those elements are not unlike the elements that we've been trying to get in the CARICOM Common Agricultural Policy. It's not by chance. It's all structured and planned. It's planned in 5-year increments. It's financed and supported. In short, I'm coming right down to fundamental principles. The performance does not emerge from thin air. And again, if we did not liberalize with them, and we did nothing that was similar, the access that Canada would have to us, without saying anything about being locked off from the growing dynamic trends in their markets, the access they have to us, if we did nothing, would be sure.
The point which Dr. Antoine labored upon, that is, without more, that is, without paying attention to critical issues other than the market access issues, perhaps there would be nothing much for CARICOM countries to gain. The emphasis on the development support, the emphasis on the transformation of the agricultural sector, the emphasis on the enhancement of competitiveness within the sector, and critically, the point which he used as his example, changes in total factor productivity in the sector is critical and must be addressed if those agreements, whether it be the EPA, the CARICOM Canada Trade Agreement, and even the intra-regional trade arrangements which we have signed, that is the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. The emphasis must be on transforming the agricultural sector in order to enable the stakeholders within agriculture, in order to enable the entrepreneurs in agribusiness activities to take advantage of whatever opportunities may arise under the trade agreement.
We have had access to markets for many years under form of agreements with Europe and so on, where we have had duty-free access, but we have not made much use of some of that access.
When we look at CARICOM's menu of agreements, and we look at the trade performance under those agreements, can we speak to the same result? Is it the case that our trade has grown under those agreements and we are specifically targeting the opportunities in those agreements coming from a conception of a dynamic agricultural system that fits into the agreements?
Agreements, rules do not necessarily create trade. Agreements and rules, signing an agreement such as the EPA agreement or the CARICOM Canada agreement, the proposed CARICOM Canada agreement, does not automatically lead to an increase in the trade between the two parties.